Human guard warns alien queen, "Don't enter your chamber. Your husband intends to kill you." The palace of Queen Lyra stretched across the cliffs like a crown of stone, glittering under the twin moons. Its spires pierced the violet sky, and its halls echoed with whispers of 1,000 secrets. Lyra walked through the long corridors, her silvery gown brushing the marble floor. Even in the quiet of the early night, the palace felt alive, its shadows watching her, almost breathing with her. Kale, a human guard assigned to protect her, followed silently at a distance. He had watched her since she became queen, witnessing her strength, her grace, and her unspoken loneliness. Though he had sworn an oath to serve, something deeper tethered him to her, a concern, a loyalty, perhaps a kind of affection he could not name. Kale had seen the signs of danger before Lyra even knew they existed. The way the shadows in the throne room shifted unnaturally, the way the candles flickered without wind, and the strange silence in the gardens where normally the night birds sang. Something was wrong with King Varian tonight. Kale's instincts, honed through years of vigilance, screamed at him to warn her before it was too late. He caught up to her as she approached her private chambers, her fingers brushing the doorframe. His voice was low, almost a whisper, yet it carried the weight of urgency. "Your Majesty," Kale said, bowing slightly, "do not enter your chamber." Lyra froze, turning her sharp, violet eyes toward him. "Kale," she asked, "why would I not enter my own room?" Kale swallowed, his jaw tight. "It is your husband. He intends to harm you." Lyra laughed softly, a sound like wind over glass. "Harm me? You speak in riddles. Varian would never." "Would never," Kale interrupted, his voice trembling. "Queen, I have served him too long to deny what is coming. He is different tonight. I have seen him lose himself to a darkness I cannot explain. Please do not go to him." Her laughter faded, leaving only the echo of fear in its place. The palace, usually so alive, felt colder. She hesitated at the doorway, her heart beating faster. "Are you certain, Kale?" she asked, her voice softer now. "I swear," he said, his eyes meeting hers with a raw honesty that made her chest tighten. "If you enter that chamber, you may never come out alive." Lyra's mind raced. Varian, her husband, had always been strong and proud, a king who ruled with intelligence and charisma. But lately, whispers of darkness had reached her ears. Courtiers spoke of strange behavior, of sudden rages and vanished allies. Could it truly be true that the man she loved, the man she had chosen to rule beside, had become dangerous? I must see for myself," she murmured. Something in her stirred, a mixture of dread and defiance. She had faced storms, assassins, and traitors, yet the thought of Varian turning against her was a storm unlike any she had known. Kale's hand rose, almost touching her arm. "No, Your Majesty, please wait, let me investigate first." Lyra shook her head gently. "I cannot. I must face him. If he is lost to darkness, I must know why." Kale looked at her, torn between his duty to protect and his duty to respect her will. The queen was not a woman to be forced, even for her safety. He stepped back, bowing deeply. "Then I will follow you," he said. The two of them moved toward the chamber, the air growing heavier with every step. The torches along the corridor flickered wildly, though no draft disturbed them. Shadows leaped and twisted along the walls as if alive. Lyra's hand paused on the doorknob, the metal cold and unyielding. She took a deep breath. "Kale," she said softly, "do you think he could really hurt me?" Kale hesitated, then nodded, though his eyes were filled with fear. "If the darkness has claimed him, yes. But even so, there is still hope. I have seen him hesitate even now. There is still a part of him that remembers you." Lyra's heart ached at his words. She remembered the man she had fallen in love with, the man who had laughed with her under the sun, who had whispered dreams of peace and glory. Could that man truly be gone? The door creaked as she pushed it open. Inside, the chamber was dimly lit, the curtains drawn to keep the moonlight out. Varian sat at the edge of a carved stone bed, his head bowed, hands clenched tightly. The air shimmered around him, as if alive with a subtle energy. The darkness that Kale had warned about seemed to emanate from him, filling the room like smoke. Lyra's voice trembled, though she tried to sound steady. "Varian." The king looked up, his eyes glowing faintly, unnerving and strange. He did not speak, only watched her, and in that silence she felt the chill of fear slip into her bones. Kale stepped forward, placing himself slightly between them. "Your Majesty, stay back," he warned. Varian's lips curved into a faint, cruel smile. "Kale," he said, his voice low and almost unrecognizable, ever vigilant. "Yet I wonder, does your loyalty blind you to the truth?" "What truth?" Lyra asked, her voice steady despite the trembling in her heart. "Speak clearly, Varian. I am your queen, your wife." "What has become of you?" Varian's eyes darkened, shadows dancing across his face. "The truth is the world will take what it wishes. The throne, the crown, the power, it is never enough. And sometimes one must act decisively." Lyra's stomach twisted. She realized then that Kale's warning had been true. The man she loved, her husband, had been consumed by something beyond human comprehension, something that made him dangerous even to her. Kale stepped closer, lowering his hand toward the hilt of his sword. "Stay back, your Majesty, I cannot let him hurt you." Lyra shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. "No, Kale, violence is not the answer, not yet. He is still my husband. I must reach him." Varian's eyes softened for a fleeting second, and Lyra saw a spark of the man she had loved. It vanished almost immediately, replaced by the darkness again. "Reach me?" he asked, almost mockingly. "Do you think your love can save me? Can it bring me back from what I have become?" Lyra took a step closer, her hand trembling as it reached toward him. "I do not know," she whispered, "but I must try. If I do not, I will live with the knowledge that I abandoned you when you needed me most." Kale watched her, his heart tightening. He wanted to argue, to force her away, but he knew her mind was made up. She was brave, perhaps too brave, yet it was her courage that had always set her apart from others. Varian rose slowly, the shadows clinging to him like a second skin. The air around him shimmered with tension, magic, and power. "Then come," he said, his voice almost a growl. "See what you must see. Face me if you dare." Lyra inhaled deeply and stepped forward. Kale followed, close enough to protect but careful not to interfere unless necessary. The queen and the king stood in the center of the chamber, the air thick with unspoken words, fear and longing. "You are not yourself," Lyra said gently, her voice trembling but firm. This is not who you are. I know you are still in there, I can feel it. Let me help you." Varian laughed softly, a sound tinged with madness and sorrow. "Do you think you can undo what has been done? The darkness, it is a part of me now, a part I cannot control." Kale felt a shiver run down his spine. The danger was real. The king's power, fueled by something unnatural, radiated from him in waves. And yet, Lyra stood her ground, her gaze unwavering. In that moment, something shifted. Varian's eyes flickered, a shadow of doubt crossing his face. Kale noticed it immediately, a small, fragile crack in the wall of darkness surrounding him. Lyra took a slow step forward, her hand reaching toward him again. "I will not abandon you, Varian," she said. "Not now, not ever. You may have lost yourself, but I will find you. I will bring you back." Varian looked at her, his expression unreadable. The shadows swirled around him, restless and wild. "And if I cannot be saved?" he asked softly, almost a whisper. "If the darkness is stronger than my will, then we fight it together," Lyra said, her voice steady despite the fear in her heart. "I will not leave you, even if it means standing in the fire myself." Kale felt a surge of hope and dread at the same time. The danger was far from over, but the queen's courage had sparked something in the king, however fleeting. The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see which path the night would take. Outside the chamber, the palace trembled slightly, as if responding to the tension within. The twin moons shone through the windows, their light fractured by clouds, casting long, trembling shadows across the floor. Kale knew that this night would change everything. And yet, even as fear pressed against his chest, he could not tear his eyes from the queen. Her bravery, her love, and her determination burned like a beacon in the darkness. Whatever happened next, he knew one thing for certain: she would not face it alone. The warning had been given, the danger revealed. Now the future rested on courage, love, and the fragile hope that light could still pierce the shadows of the heart. The night deepened over the palace, but Lyra did not sleep. The queen sat by the window of her chamber, staring at the twin moons hanging low over the cliffs. Their pale light spilled into the room, illuminating the intricate patterns of her gown and the delicate silver crown atop her head. Kale stood nearby, silent but watchful, his presence both a comfort and a reminder of the danger that lurked within the walls of the palace. Lyra could not stop thinking about Varian, her husband, her king, the man she had once loved more than anything. She remembered the gentle way he had held her hand during their first evening in the throne room, the warmth in his eyes when he had spoken of building a kingdom where peace could last. And now, she could barely recognize him. The darkness that had claimed him was not of this world. It moved in him like smoke, twisting his will and filling him with a cold, unyielding force. Kale broke the silence. "Your Majesty, I believe I know what has taken him." Lyra turned sharply. "What do you mean?" "Do you know the source of this darkness?" Kale nodded. "There is an old power, a curse, that has bound itself to him. Long before you came to the throne, this palace held secrets, and one of them has awakened. It is strong, Queen Lyra, stronger than any sword or army. And it feeds on the fear and doubt in his heart." Lyra's hand clenched around the windowsill. "A curse," she whispered. "Can it be broken?" Kale hesitated. "I do not know yet, but I believe it can be contained if we understand it, if we confront it together." She studied him, her violet eyes searching for certainty in his expression. "Together?" she asked. "Yes," he said firmly. "You are the only one who can reach him now. I will protect you, guide you, but he must see you, truly see you, if there is any hope of freeing him." Lyra swallowed, her mind racing. She had always faced danger with courage, but the thought of confronting a cursed man, the one she loved, filled her with both dread and determination. She nodded slowly. "Then we must act. Show me where to begin." Kale led her through a hidden door in the back of the palace library, a door that opened onto a narrow, winding staircase. The steps descended into darkness, damp and cold, lined with ancient stone that seemed to hum with a quiet, invisible power. Lyra's hand brushed against the wall, feeling the vibrations of something older than the palace itself. "This way," Kale whispered, his torch casting flickering shadows along the walls. "We must go to the old sanctum beneath the throne room. The source of the curse is there, waiting." Lyra followed, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and hope. She had never ventured into these depths before. The air grew heavier with each step, carrying the scent of earth, stone, and something faintly metallic. She thought of Varian, of the man she loved trapped inside the darkness, and steeled herself for what she might see. At last, they arrived at a massive iron door, etched with symbols that glowed faintly in the torchlight. Kale pressed his hand to the carvings, and the door groaned open, revealing a chamber bathed in a cold, otherworldly light. The room was vast, filled with relics of a forgotten age. Strange, angular stones hovered above the floor, suspended by magic that hummed softly. In the center, on a pedestal of black stone, lay an orb that pulsed with a dark, swirling energy. Lyra felt a chill pass through her as she approached it. "This is it," Kale said quietly. "This is what holds the curse." Lyra reached out, hesitating for a moment before touching the orb. The moment her fingers brushed its surface, a vision flooded her mind. She saw Varian, sitting alone in the throne room, his eyes glowing with shadows. She saw himself rising against allies, voices screaming in warning, his hands trembling as he fought to control himself. And she saw the palace trembling, walls cracking, the air thick with danger. Lyra gasped and drew back. It shows me everything," she whispered. The curse, the darkness, everything he has done and may do. Kale placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. It is dangerous, yes, but it also reveals the truth. You can see him, not just the darkness, but the man he was and the man he can still be. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. I do not know if I am strong enough. You are stronger than you know, Kale said firmly. I have seen you face armies, storms, betrayal. You can face this too, and you are not alone. Lyra drew a deep breath and looked again at the orb. The visions continued, twisting and turning, showing fragments of Varian's memories and the moment the curse had first taken hold. A bitter figure in a dark hall, chanting words that should not be spoken. A shadow slipping into his heart, filling it with rage and despair. The curse, it feeds on his fear, his doubt, and his anger, Kale explained. But also on his love. If he can see your love, if he can feel it, it can weaken the curse, even destroy it. Lyra swallowed. Then I must reach him. I must make him feel that I have not abandoned him. Kale nodded. We will go to him together. They left the sanctum and made their way back up the stairs, moving quickly but quietly. The palace above seemed unchanged, calm, but Lyra could feel the tension building in the air. Something was stirring. The darkness within Varian was aware of her intent. When they entered the throne room, Varian was standing by the window, looking out at the cliffs and the twin moons. His eyes glowed faintly, and the air around him shimmered with the curse's power. Lyra felt her chest tighten, but she stepped forward anyway, her hand outstretched. Varian, she said softly, I am here. I have not left you. I will not leave you. Look at me. He turned slowly, and for a moment she saw the man she had loved, frightened, uncertain, yet reaching for her. And then the shadows surged, wrapping around him like living smoke. His voice was low, almost hollow. Lyra, I cannot, the darkness, it is too strong. You can, she whispered. I know you can. You are not alone. I am here. Kale is here. We will face it together. Varian's eyes wavered, the shadows flickering as if uncertain. He took a step toward her, then faltered, the weight of the curse pressing down on him. Lyra held her breath, seeing the struggle within him. Kale stepped closer, his hand on the hilt of his sword, ready to protect her. Do not let it scare you, your majesty. You are stronger than this darkness. He can hear you, even if he cannot speak it. Lyra took another step forward, her voice rising with emotion. Varian, look at me. Remember who you are. You are the king I married, the man I love. You are not this curse. You can fight it. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then slowly the shadows began to pull back, trembling like smoke in the wind. Varian's eyes softened, and a flash of the man she knew returned. He reached out, and Lyra grasped his hand. It is me, she whispered. I am here. He looked at her, fear and hope warring in his gaze. Lyra, can it be undone? I do not know, she admitted, but I will not leave you. We will find a way together. You are not lost. The shadows flickered violently, resisting her words, but Varian held onto her hand. And in that touch, the curse seemed to hesitate, as if sensing the strength of their connection. Kale watched silently, his heart pounding. The queen's courage, her love, and her determination were not just saving Varian. They were challenging a darkness that had existed for centuries. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the throne room. The twin moons outside glowed brighter, their light breaking through the clouds and casting silver rays across the chamber. The curse within Varian writhed, resisting, yet unable to sever the bond Lyra had rekindled. Lyra tightened her grip on his hand. We will face this together, Varian. You are not alone. Feel me, remember me, fight it. Varian's eyes met hers, and for the first time in weeks the shadows in his gaze lessened. He nodded slightly, a fragile, hopeful gesture, though the darkness still lingered. Kale exhaled slowly, relief washing over him. They had made the first step, perhaps the most important one. The curse had not been destroyed, but it had been challenged, and for the first time, Varian was not entirely under its control. Lyra and Kale shared a glance, silent understanding passing between them. The night was far from over, and the danger was far from gone, but hope had returned, fragile yet real. Together they would confront the darkness, and together they would fight for the man she loved. The palace had grown restless. Even in the moonless hours of night, the air trembled with a quiet tension. Wordless fears and half-whispered rumors moved through the corridors like restless spirits. Queen Lyra, her heart still heavy from the confrontation with Varian, could feel the darkness lingering like a shadow that refused to leave. It had pulled at him, and now, even when he seemed himself, it threatened to return. Kale followed her silently through the halls, ever watchful. The weight of the queen's trust pressed heavily upon him. They had faced the curse before, but it was not defeated. It had only been challenged. Every step into the palace now felt like walking along a knife's edge. "We cannot wait for him to recover on his own," Kale said softly. "If the curse returns, it may take him completely. We must act, and soon." Lyra nodded, her mind working through possibilities. "Then we must find the source," she said. "If the curse is anchored to something in the palace, we must discover it and sever its hold." They descended once more into the ancient chambers beneath the throne room, into the sanctum where the orb pulsed with dark energy. The air felt colder than before, and the faint hum of magic seemed to press against their ears. Kale pointed to the orb at the center. "It has grown stronger," he said. "The curse resists us, and if we confront it directly, it will fight back. We must be careful, Your Majesty." Lyra approached, her hand trembling slightly, though her resolve did not falter. "Then we fight it together," she said. "I will not abandon him. I will not abandon us." Kale's gaze lingered on her, admiration and worry mixing in his expression. "I will stand by you," he said. "Whatever it takes." Together they reached for the orb, and as their hands touched it, the room shifted. Shadows erupted like living tendrils, writhing across the walls and floor. The air shimmered, and a vision overtook them. Lyra saw Varian, sitting alone in the throne room, surrounded by darkness. His eyes glowed faintly, and he fought to remain himself. The curse's influence clawed at his mind, twisting memories and emotions, threatening to sever his will completely. She felt his fear, his confusion, and beneath it all, the faint pulse of the man she loved. Kale gripped her arm. "Do you feel it?" he asked. "The curse is stronger than we thought, but your presence is pulling at him. You can reach him, Lyra." Lyra took a deep breath. "Then I will not let go," she whispered. The vision shifted, and suddenly they were no longer in the sanctum. They were standing in a place that seemed like a battlefield of shadow and starlight, a space where reality bent and twisted. The floor shimmered beneath them, reflecting impossible skies, and distant mountains glowed with a ghostly light. Here the curse seemed almost alive, a towering shadow that watched them with hungry eyes. "You must confront it directly," Kale said, his voice tense. "The curse is testing you. It knows your love for him, and it seeks to turn it against you." Lyra nodded, her heart racing. "Then I will face it. I will not let it control him." The shadow moved, and from its depths emerged Varian, or at least the part of him the curse had not consumed. His eyes were wild, glowing with a strange, unnatural light. "Lyra," he said, voice trembling between familiarity and something darker, "you should not have come here. It is too strong. I cannot control it." "You can," she said firmly. "I know you can. Remember who you are, Varian. You are the man I married, the man I love. Do not let this darkness take you from me." The shadow around him surged, reacting to her words. It twisted, and the environment of the battlefield shifted violently, throwing them off balance. Kale moved quickly to steady Lyra, his hand brushing hers, a silent reassurance amidst the chaos. Varian stumbled, torn between the curse and the love that Lyra's voice summoned within him. The darkness spoke to him in whispers, promises of power, fear, and control. But her words, her presence, cut through, fragile yet unyielding. "You are not alone, Varian," Lyra said, stepping closer, reaching for his hand. "I am here. Kale is here. We fight it together." For a moment the shadows wavered. The curse hesitated, as if sensing the strength of their bond. Varian's eyes softened, recognition and longing breaking through the dark haze. Kale placed a hand on Varian's shoulder. "Hold on," he urged. "You are stronger than this. We will help you." Varian shook his head slightly, his hands trembling. I do not deserve your help. I am lost." Lyra's voice rang clear and strong. "No, Varian, you are not lost. You are not alone. And even if the darkness has claimed part of you, the part I love is still here. Fight for it, fight with us." The shadow around him recoiled violently, and for a moment it seemed as if the darkness would tear him apart. Lyra felt a pang of fear, the possibility of losing him forever pressing into her heart. Yet she did not falter. She stayed close, her hands outstretched, her gaze unwavering. Varian fell to his knees, the weight of the curse pressing on him. His breath came in ragged gasps, and the shadows twisted tighter around him. I cannot," he whispered. "Yes, you can," Lyra said softly. "You have to, I know it. I can feel the man you are beneath this darkness. Fight for him, fight for yourself." Kale stepped forward, his hand gripping his sword, ready to defend Lyra and Varian if needed. "Queen Lyra is right," he said. "The curse cannot win if you fight it. Stand with us. Together you are stronger than it ever was." For a long moment, silence fell, broken only by the faint hum of the shadows and the uneven breathing of the king. Then slowly, he lifted his head. The light in his eyes shifted, lessening in intensity, flickering like a candle against a storm. I feel something," he murmured. "A part of me still here because of you." Lyra's heart swelled with hope. "Yes," she said. "Hold on to it. Do not let go." The shadows writhed and screamed, pushing against him, yet he stood taller, steadier. Lyra and Kale flanked him, their combined presence a shield and anchor. Slowly, carefully, Varian extended a trembling hand toward the queen. She took it, and for the first time in weeks, she felt warmth return to him, a spark of the man she had loved. "You are stronger than this curse," she whispered, "and I will not leave you." The shadow shrieked and surged one last time, but it could not break the bond Lyra had forged. With a flash of blinding light, it dissipated, retreating into the corners of the room. The battlefield of starlight vanished, leaving the three of them standing once more in the throne room, bathed in the pale glow of the twin moons. Varian fell to his knees again, exhausted but free from the immediate hold of the curse. He looked at Lyra, tears in his eyes. I am sorry," he said, voice trembling. "For everything, for the fear, for the darkness." "You are forgiven," Lyra said, her own tears falling. "What matters is that you are here with us, and we will face what comes next together." Kale exhaled, relief flooding him. He had feared losing the king to the darkness forever, but now a fragile hope remained. He looked at Lyra, their silent understanding speaking volumes. They had begun the fight, and though the danger was not over, they had won a vital first battle. Yet even in the quiet that followed, an unease lingered. The curse had not been destroyed, it had only been weakened. And Kale knew, as he looked at Varian and the shadows that still whispered at the edges of the room, that the battle for the king's soul, and perhaps the fate of the palace, was far from over. Lyra, standing beside Kale, felt the weight of that truth as well. Her heart ached for the man she loved, for the danger he still faced, and for the choices they would have to make. She knew that the darkness could return at any moment, that Varian's struggle was ongoing, and that their lives were now bound together by forces larger than any of them had imagined. She took a deep breath and stepped closer to Varian, placing a hand gently on his shoulder. "Rest now," she said softly. "We will be here. We will face it together no matter what comes." Varian nodded, exhaustion and relief mingling in his gaze. Kale, still standing guard, knew that for the first time in a long while, the king felt the strength of allies, of love, and of hope. But outside the palace, the night continued and the shadows waited. The darkness had been challenged, but it had not been defeated. And in the quiet corners of the world, its whispers promised that the next confrontation would be far more dangerous, far more personal, and far more consuming than any of them could yet imagine. The palace had grown quiet in the early hours of dawn. The twin moons had dipped below the horizon, leaving the cliffs bathed in pale, silver light. The air was heavy with a sense of anticipation, as if the walls themselves waited for what was to come. Queen Lyra stood at the edge of the balcony, the wind playing through her silvery hair. Below, the gardens glimmered with dew, untouched by the recent shadows that had haunted the palace. Kale approached quietly, his steps measured and careful. "Your Majesty," he said softly. "The curse is stirring again. I can feel it in the halls. It senses Varian's weakness, the remnants of the darkness within him." Lyra did not turn immediately. She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath, feeling the cool wind on her skin. "Then we must confront it once more," she said. "It will not claim him, not if I can help it, not if we stand together." Kale nodded, his hand resting lightly on the hilt of his sword. He had watched her face countless times, seen her courage and her fear, but never had the stakes felt so high. This was more than a struggle for the palace. It was a struggle for the man she loved, for the light hidden within the darkness, and for the fragile hope that bound them all. They descended into the throne room where Varian waited. His eyes were open, but the glow of the curse still lingered faintly, a shadow at the edges of his gaze. He sat upon the throne, his posture weary but defiant, his hands gripping the armrests as if grounding himself against invisible forces. "Lyra," he said, voice trembling, I feel it. The darkness, it is returning. I cannot fight it alone." "You are not alone," Lyra said, stepping forward. "We are here. Kale is here. I am here. Together we can face it. You must trust us. You must trust yourself." Varian swallowed, a shiver passing through him. The shadows seemed to shift, moving toward him like a tide, eager to reclaim what had been lost. Lyra extended her hand, reaching for him, her gaze unwavering. "I will not let you fall," she whispered. "Not now, not ever." The darkness surged, and for a moment it seemed as if the very walls of the palace trembled. Shadows twisted around Varian, forming shapes of fear and memory, shapes that sought to overwhelm him with guilt, anger, and despair. Kale stepped closer, his sword drawn not to strike, but to channel his will and protect them. "Stand with her, Your Majesty," he said firmly. "The curse can be resisted if you are strong together." Varian's hands clenched, the tension in his body visible as he struggled. I am afraid," he admitted, voice breaking. "What if the darkness cannot be broken?" Lyra shook her head gently. "It can, it will. You are stronger than you think, Varian. The darkness feeds on fear, and right now the only fear that matters is letting it win. Hold on to me. Hold on to us. You are not alone." The shadows hissed and twisted, their movement almost alive, yet Varian's hand found hers. The moment their fingers met, a pulse of light spread from her hand through his, faint at first, then stronger, illuminating the throne room like the rising sun. "Feel it?" Lyra asked softly. "The light within you. It is still there. Let it guide you." Varian's breathing steadied. His knees no longer shook as violently, and his eyes began to clear. The darkness screamed, resisting, but Lyra and Kale's presence anchored him. The curse's hold weakened with each passing heartbeat, unable to break the bond forged by love, trust, and unwavering courage. "You are not lost," Lyra said. "Not while we are here, not while you believe in yourself." Varian's lips trembled as tears welled in his eyes. I remember," he whispered. "I remember who I am, who I was, the man I wanted to be." The shadows shrieked one final time, writhing violently before dissipating into nothingness. The throne room was silent, bathed in the soft morning light that now streamed through the windows. The curse had been broken, not destroyed entirely, but weakened to the point where Varian's will could hold it at bay. Lyra released his hand and stepped closer, placing both her hands on his shoulders. "It is over," she said softly. "You are free, Varian, free to be yourself again." Varian looked at her, a mixture of gratitude, relief, and lingering fear in his eyes. "Lyra, I cannot thank you enough," he said. "You saved me not with weapons, not with force, but with love and courage. I am not worthy of you." "You are worthy," she said firmly, her eyes shining. "Worthy of love, worthy of hope, worthy of the life you choose now. Do not speak of worthiness, speak of tomorrow, of what we can build together." Kale stepped back slightly, allowing the moment to pass between them. He felt a mixture of relief and admiration. The curse had tested them all, but they had survived, stronger for the struggle. Varian rose from the throne, his posture more steady, his gaze more certain. I will do better," he said. "Not just for myself, but for the kingdom, for you, and for Lyra. I will not let darkness claim me again." Lyra smiled, a mixture of tears and joy shining in her eyes. "And we will help you," she said. "Together, we will face whatever comes, and we will not falter." The morning light grew stronger, bathing the palace in golden warmth. Outside, the garden shimmered with dew, the first bird song of the day filling the air. It was as if the world itself had acknowledged the victory of light over shadow, of hope over despair. Kale finally exhaled, lowering his sword. "It is done for now," he said quietly. "But we must remain vigilant. The darkness may linger in corners we cannot yet see." Lyra nodded, her hand still resting lightly on Varian's. "Then we remain together. Whatever comes, we will face it united. Not as queen and guard, not as king and wife, but as allies in life, in love, and in courage." Varian's eyes softened, and he reached out to clasp her hand fully. "I am grateful," he said. "Grateful for your courage, your patience, your heart. I will not forget what you have done for me, for the kingdom, for us." Lyra squeezed his hand. "Nor will I forget," she replied. "But we must look forward now. The past is behind us, the darkness is behind us, and the future is ours to shape." Kale looked at the two of them, feeling a profound respect for the bond they shared. He had been their protector, a silent guardian in the shadows, but now he understood something deeper. Love, courage, and loyalty were stronger than any curse or shadow. And sometimes, even a guard could feel hope for the future. The palace seemed to breathe again, the walls no longer heavy with unseen forces. The twin moons had disappeared behind the horizon, leaving a new day to begin. The throne room, once filled with tension and fear, now held peace and quiet strength. Varian took a step closer to Lyra, his hand brushing hers. "Tell me," he said softly, "what comes next for us, for the kingdom?" Lyra smiled, the wind lifting her hair like silver flames. "We rebuild," she said. "We strengthen the kingdom, we protect it, and we ensure that darkness cannot rise again. But most importantly, we cherish what we have learned, our courage, our love, our unity. That is what will shape tomorrow." Varian nodded, a sense of purpose grounding him. "Then let us begin," he said. Kale watched silently, knowing that though the battle was won, vigilance would always be necessary. Yet hope filled the room, a fragile and beautiful thing, stronger than any darkness that could return. The sun rose fully over the cliffs, casting golden light across the palace and the gardens. Lyra stood between the two men, her heart filled with relief, pride, and quiet joy. They had faced the shadows, fought the darkness, and emerged not unscathed, but stronger, united, and transformed. The palace had survived. The king had survived. And the queen, ever courageous, had discovered the power of love and courage to conquer even the deepest shadows. The future remained uncertain, as it always would, but for the first time in many nights, Lyra felt a sense of peace. She was not alone. Varian was beside her, restored in part, still human in his struggles but whole in his willingness to fight. Kale was beside her, steadfast, a protector and friend. Together, they would face the challenges to come. And as the first rays of sunlight lit the palace halls, it felt as if the world itself had breathed a quiet sigh of relief. Darkness had been tested. Love had endured. And the story of the queen, the king, and the guard had reached a turning point, a moment of hope, redemption, and transformation that would echo through the ages. Lyra raised her head to the horizon, letting the warmth of the sun touch her face. "The shadows may rise again," she whispered, "but we will face them together." And with that promise, the palace, the kingdom, and the hearts within it began a new chapter, one defined by courage, unity, and the enduring power of hope.